everybody. Welcome to First Take. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Quite the crew this morning. Kendrick Perkins, Stephen A., Monica McNutt, NYC. Hey, lady. How's everybody feeling?
Howdy.
Pretty good.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday.
I've
Happy
had
Monday.
I've had better Mondays. You know, I expect a little more from my New York Knicks, which we will discuss. But all I got to say is this: no matter how or what I saw yesterday, rather. Orange and
I
blue
gotta be honest,
skies,
but I
baby.
can't hear anyone.
Orange and
Can
blue
you not hear
skies.
anyone either?
I thought it was
Okay,
just me.
let's roll. We'll get to the VO and we'll get our audio straightened out. I'm sure it was
I can
Stephen
hear
A.
Perk.
I'm sure it was Stephen A. dissing me in some way and Perk saying something nice. So let's go. In a Game 7 on the road with their back against the wall. At least I got you, Monica. Steph Curry erupted for 50 points on 20 of 38 shooting, the most points ever scored in a Game 7 in league history. He scored 17 in the fourth. The help Curry got was limited as Klay Thompson 1 of 10. Jordan Poole scored just 5 points in the first half. Then midway through the third quarter, they turned it around, folks. Klay and Steph scored or assisted on 30 of the Warriors' 35 third quarter points. They will now face the Lakers in the conference.
But that's how I felt, back when in my playing days, with Michael Jordan. You'd see it night after night, so you just took it for granted.
Who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully we'll never find out.
Now that's a bar right there. Steph Curry in full effect last night, dropping an NBA Game 7 record of 50 points in the Warriors' victory over the Kings. Curry also tied Karl Malone for the most points ever in a playoff game, age 35 or older, with his performance. Okay, Stephen A., let's get to business here. Did Steph's performance cement him as the greatest point guard of all time?
I think it's a worthy discussion. Can we say that definitively? No, because Magic Johnson, like Steph Curry, revolutionized the game of basketball, showed you that a big dude, 6'9", could play point forward or could play point guard, could be an elite passer, run an offense, lead a break, et cetera, although albeit a bit smaller, some would say. The Oscar Robinsons of the world showcased that themselves, particularly him, because he averaged a triple-double in the 60s. But the fact of the matter is Magic Johnson revolutionized the game of basketball. We can't get around that. But Steph Curry, the greatest shooter God has ever created, I think has warranted a strong discussion to be the best point guard in history because of impact. We know that he's revolutionized the game in a different way, because of what has been able to be generated in terms of three-point shooting or whatever. But I'm thinking about impact. Just like Magic Johnson impacted the greatness of a Kareem, of a Worthy, of a Byron Scott, a Norm Nixon before him and others, all right? And basically it instituted the fast break in a way we had never seen until he arrived. Steph Curry has done that for the game of basketball in terms of the jump shot, the three-point shot, the space that it creates for the opportunities that it creates for the players around him, how it scares the living hell out of defenses and what have you. And then when you take into account not just his shooting ability, but it's off the dribble, it's floaters, it's runners, it's spot ups, it's off screens and picks, it's everywhere, it's off the dribble, creating his own shot. This brother is something magnificent. There is no way around it. And so for me, when I look at it from that perspective, and I think about impact, the way you affect not just the players you're playing with because you create open opportunities for them because of how people have to lock in and zero in on you. His movement without the basketball is something else that we need to pay attention to and really, really appreciate, because he scares the living hell out of you because you're always looking for where he's at because he's always moving like a road runner, for crying out loud. You can't find him, okay, until it's too late, all right? You take that into consideration, the impact that he has and the fear he instills in opposing defenses, because he can shoot from 30, from 40, from 50, from 20, from 10, from 5. Scored 22 points in the paint last night. Yesterday afternoon, rather. 22 points in the paint. He's that dude. And it is a discussion, at the very least, that he is the greatest point guard that has ever played the game of basketball.
know what? It's so hard, right? Because the evolution of the game and how now when we define the positions of the game, and I would encourage both of y'all and Molly, you two, all three of y'all, to actually go read Rashard Phillips' book, right? Basketball Position Metrics. And Rashard Phillips was, one of the Detroit's finest, one of the greatest college players to ever touch the basketball hill. Kobe Bryant said it was one of the best players he ever played against that never got drafted. But with that being said, he actually labeled Steph Curry as a hybrid guard. A hybrid guard is an offensive disruptor, right? But the fact of the matter is, because of history, he's going to go down as a point guard. And I actually said this last year after he proved me wrong and went on to win the championship in the NBA. And we forget that this guy's still doing this at 6'2", average around close to about 30 this year. So when I look at Steph, I said it last year and I'm going to stand on it right now. He is the greatest point guard to ever play the game of basketball, period.
I'm just so glad that we're having the conversation about the title of this position, right? Because for me, yes, right? This is the player that I've had the opportunity to watch through this era, continue to change the game, essentially, right? But it took me so long mentally to get to the place of seeing Steph as a pure point guard because he is such a prolific scorer, playmaker, shot creator, not just for himself, but for his teammates. And so, Perk, I love where you went in terms of acknowledging this hybrid guard, because in the era of positionless basketball, right, you think of that when it comes to bigs that are on the perimeter. Well, I mean...
So without even figuring out who comes off the list, somebody got to come off the list because he's that damn great. Let me get to a point. Y'all will be interested in this because I can't talk about the couple of Hall of Famers that I had a conversation. Me and Wilbon was here doing NBA Countdown in L.A. yesterday, and we had a conversation. Wilbon and I were going back and forth with it, and then we got on the phone with a couple of Hall of Famers who will remain nameless because they'll kick out you know what if we tell you who they are. They just made it very, very clear. You will not quote us. But they started dissecting and talking about, we was having this debate, Wilbon and myself, with these people. And they talked about Magic in this regard. They said, let's keep in mind that when you talk about Steph Curry, he's great, all-timer. Nobody denies that. But what they lamented about Steph Curry, folks, is that when you talk about him and you're not talking about his shooting, what else is there? The only time you talk about him,
it mattered the most. And by the way, the Celtics ain't just look sexy to me in that first series. So I will say, with a less than 100% Joel Embiid, I do give him a shot.
if Joel Embiid is healthy, they have a shot. If Joel Embiid is compromised, I give them zero chance. Zero. This team, these Boston Celtics, they just seem to have the Sixers number. I know that the lone victory that the Sixers had was when Embiid dropped 52-13 against them near the end of the regular season. They just always seem to find a way. I'm not saying it's not going to be highly competitive. I'm not saying it's not going to be nip and tuck. I'm not going to say it's not going to be close. I love the addition of the Anthony Melton. We already got Shake Milton there. I love PJ Tucker being there. He's a rough rider. I know what he brings defensively. I get that. That'll make things tougher for either Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, one or the other, because he can't defend both. I just look at the 76ers. James Harden, by the way, struggled in that first round series. His shooting touch wasn't, they shot like 9 for 34, I think, if I remember correctly, 9 for 34 on 2-point shots. I'm just looking at him. I'm looking at Maxey. He's better coming in the starting lineup than coming off the bench, but he's been sporadic at times. And then I think about Boston. Malcolm Brogdon's the reigning sixth man of the year. We know what he brings. Derek White, we know what he brings. Marcus Smart, he knows what he brings. It's one of those things, Perk, where it's a boxing match where styles make fights. You can see a dude and he's slaughtering everybody, but he goes against a particular fighter that has a different kind of style, and it compromises you. If you George Foreman and you going up against Ken Norton or Joe Frazier, you're going to knock them the hell out. You going against Muhammad Ali, rope-a-dope is going to be exercise. He's going to tire you out. He's going to box you, and then he's going to take you out. You sit up there, you Mike Tyson, you taking out everybody. You go against Evander Holyfield, it's a different animal. There's kryptonite for somebody. Everyone has a source of kryptonite. And I believe with the Philadelphia 76ers, it's the Boston Celtics. Without a healthy Embiid, I don't only give them a minimal chance, the number's 0. I give them no chance to win this series without Joel Embiid.
Well, I'm going to say this, and you know how I feel about Doc Rivers. You know he's like a father figure to me, and I love him to death. But damn it, I'm calling him out right now. People have had a lot of questions about Doc. Not me, but people. I believe that this is the series for Doc Rivers to change the narrative about himself to the way that people view him. I believe that me watching Joe Mazzulla and some of the mistakes that he has made, not only in the season, but just in the last series, not calling timeouts in a timely manner, not making adjustments when need be, things to that nature. I believe that an experienced Doc Rivers should be able to rally these troops and get his guys together and come up with a game plan that if you don't have 100% Joel Embiid, that you should be in the thick of things and give your team an opportunity to win this series. I got belief in him. I believe it's going to come down to a style in that aspect, for styles make fights. So I want to see what Doc Rivers brings to the table.
Game 1, 7:30 Eastern tonight.
What you gang banging?
Still to come.
Efficiency, their experience, their perimeter shooting, the coaching. I think that whether against Sacramento, you slow the pace, you good. And you use Anthony Davis' size against the bonus. Against the Golden State Warriors, it's an entirely different animal. It don't matter whether they running or walking. At the end of the day, they got Steph. And I would say the Splash Brothers, but I'm mad at Klay Thompson today because of the way he shot yesterday. That was just ridiculous. This is a Game 7. You don't shoot 1 for 10 in the first half. That is blasphemy. This is blasphemy. He made up for it with the 4-point play. But I'm just saying, you got to make shots, okay? So I'm mad at him today. I ain't going to bring him up today. I'll celebrate him tomorrow. But they got Steph, and that's all it's going to take. Warriors win this series.
Here we go again. I tried to warn you about the Lakers' last series against the Grizzlies when I came on here. Now I got to come on here and remind you on who the hell they are right now. What you fixing your face for? You picked Memphis last series.
So what?
You picked them.
So what? Excuse me.
So what?
And the second Morant got hurt, I was like, oh well.
But he came back. But I told you anyway that they were going to beat them. That's number one. But number two, let me talk to you about what I've saw between both series when it comes down to the Lakers and Memphis and what I saw out of Sacramento and Golden State. First of all, I'm giving the edge to the Los Angeles Lakers because, again, defense wins championships. And when I look at the Lakers' defense, they're second in defensive ratings. They're number 1 in defensive rebounding, and they're number 1 in blocks. And why I bring up the blocks and the rebounds is because when you look at the Sacramento series, the key and the unsung hero in that series was Kevon Looney and the way that he dominated the boards. Well, now all of a sudden, you're going against a front line in LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Jared Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura, who these guys are 6'9" and above. So it's not going to be a problem for the Lakers rebounding. It's also not going to be a problem for us LeBron James knowing what he have to do against Steph Curry. And why did I say that? Because LeBron James is an extension of Darvin Ham. And what I watched last night was Mike Brown has done a hell of a job. I'm not even shooting a jab at him. But at some point, you have to say,